Hello everyone, welcome to the Jenkins Infrastructure Weekly Team Meeting. Today we are the 3rd December 2024, and we are the first day of December, almost end of year. Around the virtual table we have myself, Damien Duportal, Jeredy, Mark White, Stéphane Merle, and Kevin Martin, sorry. Let's get started immediately with announcements. So last week, the weekly release 2.487 has been released successfully, but Wednesday, as part of the security advisory. Thanks everyone involved in and helping on this one. It was released at the same time as 2.479.2, the .2 of the LTS release. The weekly release this week has started on time, so 2.488 should be released in 1 or 2 hours. Hey, I don't have other announcements. Do you, folks? Yes, the election results have been published. Is that correct? Cool.
Yes,
Okay.
although I realize that there's more to be done. We've got to actually make the changes on the web pages that show who the current officers are or who the current board members are, and update the permissions to be sure that the current board members have permission. And we need to change the Jumbotron so that it doesn't show election as one of its things. And those are all things that I need to do. I just forgot to do them yesterday. I need to put them in my checklist
Few
for
minor
this.
optimization on the blog post to run, but the essential is there. Cool.
Yeah, yes, and it's not even the blog post. It's really the general updates for after an election is complete. We need to list who the new board members are, etc.
Can I write a lot of work to Mark still put to be done? Poor Mark.
Yes, that you could write. That would be an accurate statement. Mark has a lot of work still to do because the work of the election committee is not done yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for running it, and thanks everyone involved on this one because that helps keeping the community healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have other announcement. Good for everyone. Okay, so let's have a look at the calendar. Next week, we will be 10 December 2024, and we will have a new weekly that should be 2.489. The next LTS release is planned the 8th January 2025, so next year, for the .3 version of the current LTS line. We don't have any security release advisory announced. Yeah, that was already 2 in November, that was already a lot. A word about upcoming credential expirations. If I did not miss any, I will do a double check with Stefan later today. However, we have two Netlify tokens that expire 9 and 10 December. They are used to deploy websites or pull requests for preview or both on Netlify. So we need to change this in Infra CI. Stefan confirmed Stefan started to check his freshly multi-authentication factored access to Netlify. Is it working for you, Stefan, or do you need
Yes,
us
it
to?
is.
Cool.
No, it's working.
Thanks. For anyone else using to go to Netlify to check stuff, you will need to go back at least once to have your MFA on Netlify side enabled, even if you already have MFA on GitHub or somewhere else. Yeah, we never had enough code to type when we log in somewhere, right? On the Terraform Azure repository, we had a few automated pull requests. The two most recent ones are aimed to be closed and forgotten forever, because these are renewing credentials that we don't use anymore, thanks to the new update center using NFS. Yay! I thought this pull request should have been closed automatically. They were open before we did the migration, so we'll need to check in any case. Minor element. And in the 18 December, we have 3 credentials to rotate. These credentials are used to deploy to production the websites stats Jenkins.io and contributors.jenkins.io. We also have a credential for Infra CI, the controller, that allows it to spin up agents. That's all I had on the list of credential on my list. Stefan, did you add others that you saw?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me about this because
No,
I
no, no
could have
problem.
forgot and I would have forgotten without your message. Any question on Wiki LTS security release or credentials? Nope. So next major event, 2 week release break, end of year. Mark, did you had the opportunity? I assume no, given it was Thanksgiving, but in any case, have we confirmed or not? We will stop the weekly, or we
Oh,
just keep them
thank
coming.
you. I did not confirm.
No problem.
I will send the question to the Jenkins developer list now. So that's sorry. I
Thanks.
said I would do that last week and then I failed to do it.
Yes, but
Let me do that.
you had the miles to drive and grandchildren to meet and stuff. No worries. You were off. No problem.
And
Thanks.
I'll get that posted now.
And then the next major event I have on my notes is the Contributor Summit and FOSDEM on Brussels, first week of February, more or less. Their summit,
And on that one,
FOSDEM.
I have an item of note. Michael Windsor of Alpha Omega, the organization that has funded our content security policy improvements for 3 months by Yaroslava Fenken and Shlomo Dahan, will be
Mhm.
attending the Contributor Summit.
Cool, that's good news.
That's great. So he'll take one of the 24 seats, and that further motivates me to be sure we get Vadak there and Daniel Beck and Basel. So good chance to get people together for that.
Cool. Do you have other major events to point?
Let's see. Linux Foundation Member Summit is Southern California Linux Expo and Linux Foundation Member Summit, both in March of 2025, but we don't need to list those here.
Okay. So let's have a quick look at the cloud budgets. Um, just let me update. I think I have. So I've updated what's the name? The spreadsheet in which we have the amount for the past months. Let me reopen it because I forgot to update one or two items here. Yeah, so we were at, no, I think we are at 4.3. Yeah. So we had a slight outbound bandwidth increase in November in Azure. We had a peak on the past days, and because of the way we had the new file share for Update Center. December, it's too soon to forecast. Right now, it says 6K. That makes no sense if you do linear multiplication. So we will see less next week. If I break down the 30 past days day by day, we are steady, except one day last week. Sorry. No kiddo, Kevin, but I'm getting my wife's bacterias. So on the Azure CDF account, we are green, all green. Thanks, that's really cool. We will clearly be below 60K for the whole year. That was the target pushed by CDF. I think we will be around 55. So great job, everyone. On the Azure sponsorship credits, I need to update because we consume 30K. So the bill did not stop. I haven't checked what is the amount of builds, but clearly each month we consume more on this account. These are the builds, mainly the builds on CI Jenkins IO, so that should change soon, almost there. We have we have consumed 600K. Too soon for forecast, nothing to say here. We are consuming these credits. They end in May, and we still have 40K available, so we are okay on that area. All green. Are there any questions on the Azure credits so far? Nope. Okay. DigitalOcean, nothing to say on the billing consumption, except that we will need to start requesting the extension. We received an automatic message by DigitalOcean sponsored, so this milestone will have an issue about renewing one way or the other, and we'll see if we need to move archive Jenkins IO or anything else. And on AWS, great victory. All of our effort from the past year have paid. We finished the CloudBees AWS account in November at 3.9K. The goal was to try to decrease below 5K, and right now December is 42. I expect personally, given how we have decreased and the steady rate we have since the new update center is in production, we should not pass the 600 threshold. 600 instead of 6K. That's a 10 times decrease. So congratulations, everyone. And on the sponsored account, we have started to use credits, and December should be the month in which we will consume more on the new AWS sponsor account than on the cloud-based one. That's all for me on the cloud budgets. Anything else? Question? Nope. Okay. So let's have a look at the work that we were able to do this and terminate during the past milestone. That was a huge milestone. So I'm still... Stefan, you start with the GeoIP database. Here we are.
Yes, it's up and running. It's in production now. So we now have cron job, Kubernetes cron job, scheduled every day at midnight and 30 minutes. That will take care of the update of the database. So once a day for now. So less than the threshold that they forced on us. Yeah, that's all. Worked great.
So thanks for that work. That means now we are not endangering mirror bits unless Samba decide to unbehave like it did in the past, but that was mostly caused by update center. Stefan, you need to add yourself a reminder. You have one unuse parameter to clean up that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And if everything goes accordingly in 2 or 3 days, you will have to change the cron
Switch to
job
3
interval
days.
to 3 days as recommended by
Yes.
GeoIP.
It's planned. But you're right, I would open
Minor
an issue to
cleanup
remember.
interval to set in a few days if no issues. If we have issues, we will have to use the NFS volume provision for update center, and we will have to start with get Jenkins IO. But so we have a fallback. If we
Yes.
chose to use Samba because the storage account behind is a cheap one because it doesn't use a lot of data, it doesn't cost a lot, and it's not worth getting a premium file share. The downside is that only premium file share allows NFS usage, so we are stuck with SMB for a few megabytes a year. But that should be enough. I mean, we have used Samba volume for years. Jay, your turn. The GitHub IPs.
Yeah, so we can, let me just open that issue. Just give me a second.
Mhm.
Okay, so we added the GitHub Git endpoints to our for our Azure Jenkins Infra Azure VM agents, and we also have an update key manifest right now, which tracks those IPs and filters out the IP v6 IPs. since we only require IPv4 IPs due to the nature of Azure VMs. Yeah, so the issue is being closed and it's been merged into production.
So if you see builds or people complaining that the builds cannot reach whatever SSH server from CI Jenkins IO agents or our own agents, then it means we will need to relax part of this rule, because maybe we have use case of people, I don't know, maybe a GitLab SSH server somewhere, or but right now the only knowledge we have is that either we allow all the internet, which can be risky. Right now you cannot do anything else. You cannot connect or phone home to an SSH server. And as Jay explained, it's up to date with thanks to GitHub's Meta API. Good job, Jay. Thanks for this one. What do we have? The new update center, my turn. We have a new update center that start to behave correctly. Finally, we moved everything to an NFS shared volume. That's one big NFS shared volume, so we pay only once, and we use mount by subdirectories, like we will do with a usual NFS NAS. Performances are at least from the update center metrics on Datadog, nothing changed in terms of performances. We see regularly a big increase on the update center job since it's moved to AirSync. Sometimes it's due to Cloudflare S3, but also sometimes it's the AirSync that is used to populate the NFS volume. We still need to find why is that. It's a few hours and then it goes back. So you assume there is something going on the cluster or the NFS volume. But we clearly have removed any unexpected errors. So that's really good news. We don't see Apache misbehaving anymore. And the performances on Apache are really good, especially on listing directories. We had 2 issues opened by user because we also had an incident last week. I think it was just before the security advisory, if I'm not mistaken. So we had we did not switch to NFS yet at that moment, and there was an outage on one of the private network inside Azure that was changing the latency from we are around 100 milliseconds to 2 to 3 seconds per request. So the impact for each request from the file system to the shared system were absolutely breaking everything. All of our nodes were at 100% CPU because the Samba client crashed and was in loop and hitting all CPU. So Microsoft fixed the issue on Kubernetes 1.30. Now there is something that protects the rest of the machine if it crashes instead of using old CPU. But that broke most of our production. We had to spin up new nodes. So we had 15 minutes full outage on Update Center and on a few websites, including Jenkins IO. That's why we have that issue, HTTP errors on multiple sites, and the second one as well. This issue should not happen anymore. NFS on Linux is really resilient. Do you have, folks, any question about the Update Center? Okay, so on what was done. Stefan, can you let us know about Blue Ocean?
Oh, that's quite easy. It's been removed from all the controller that we deal with and where it was installed. That meant removing it from the UI and also making sure that Puppet was not making sure it's installed. So it's been removed from everywhere. I would add, by the way, maybe we should install the plugin or the setup on CI Jenkins IO to make sure that the graph, the pipeline view graph is
stage view.
the
Replace
stage view,
stage view by the pipeline view on the build
yes.
page. Yes. Can you open an issue in try
Yes.
with the, please?
Sorry, could you say that again? Replace the stage view with pipeline graph view?
Can you show it? Yeah, thank you,
Yes.
Daniel.
I'm not sure if we have enabled it somewhere, but when you click any build, so build page at the pipeline, when you have the stage view at the pipeline level, here, instead of having that matrix that can be useful, you can have an array, a table of the 5 or 6 past builds with the an overview of the graph view here instead. And it looks really nice and it's really useful.
Show the graph
Okay.
view.
So because I've got my individual jobs configured to embed the pipeline graph view into the specific job, but I don't think that's what you're describing here because that's not a history. That's only one.
No. Oh, no,
Yeah.
here you would have an history of with the graphs.
Oh, okay. All right.
Stefan,
So
can you open an issue? And I propose for next week we do it on Infra CI no matter what, because it will be useful for us.
I
okay.
think
And
it's
next
done.
week, it's already the case on Infra? No.
You
If
can
I
see
go
the
to
graph.
Kubernetes view, I go at the main level view, we have the stage view.
Oh.
It's not done here.
Oh yeah, I thought.
No, it's not. But I propose we go on Infra CI no matter what, because the Infra team agree it's good. And then we will present this next week and we'll decide if it's worth proposing that to the other controllers.
Yes.
Thanks for the reminder. New issue to replace stage view by pipeline graph history. Thanks, Stefan. Stefan, still your turn about expiration. Oh, nothing to say here. Packer credential were
Yeah.
rotated.
Yes. Something to say. I did that with Jay, and that was very, very useful. So he saw the whole rotation process, getting the data from the Terraform states, and using subs and rotating and making sure it's taken in account with the reload. Yeah, that was. I hope he got part of it. You will understand after 2 or 3 times, Jay. Don't worry.
Which mean I'm not a single point of failure for rotating such
You
credentials.
are
That's
no,
good.
you're not a failure.
Single point.
Oh, sorry.
And of course, we had an issue to track the update of all of our controller using LTS line to the latest .2 LTS version that was released last Wednesday, Security Advisory, along with plugins. We had a few of level 1 support though. A request, not for the Jenkins Infra team, but Alex Earl and team Delta had their discussion about a plugin naming, GitHub repository naming that has been done. Thanks, team, for helping Alex. We had a user who failed to create a new account. They say they had the anti-spam trigger. That's weird because I don't see any logs on backend, so maybe something changed on the account app recently. However, they were receiving the email and they finally had the email and accessed their accounts, so the problem is solved. Because in any case, yeah, they had to look at their email because the email was there. We had a question by a contributor about eventual linkage, a link between Jira and GitHub. We don't. Jira accounts for Jenkins are LDAP accounts, while GitHub are something else. Maybe in the future we could have that kind of thing automated, but it's not expected today. So thanks for Tim and Mark for helping them here. We had CI/CD checks, so that was a request by Chris. Again, we had a non-maintainer of one of the websites saying stuck check because InfraCI wasn't triggering since they were not maintainer. We still have that setting set up right now. That means if you are maintainer, please help the newcomers by triggering manually the builds on InfraCI. That problem should be solved when we will have a bit more time. The goal will be to split deployment and pull request preview jobs, but that's not the case, so we still have the safety trigger here. Stefan had to renew their VPN certificate. That's been done. No issue as far as I can tell, at least not on the VPN.
After 3 years of good services.
Yep. CD secret appeared to have expired. So yes, someone cooked that we had an issue and it was caused by the update center that has been fixed. Or is it something I broke? I think it's something I broke. Let me double check that issue. Oh no. Okay, so that was a new plugin and time to set everything correctly in the right order with the right timing, but the release was done and it was closed. So it's not something I broke this time.
Right.
And we had the maintainer request by Chris that was asked a few weeks ago. So that has been applied, and I saw during the weekend at least 2 successful release on npm.js. So thanks, Chris, for the work here. Mark, looks like you only had one spam user, or is it the only issue because yeah, that you had a lot?
So we had a few others, but I didn't bother to create a help desk ticket. I just blocked them and went on. So it was only 2 or 3, and yeah, sorry that I didn't create the help desk issue to
No
track
problem.
them, but we can always find them if we have to by searching the LDAP database for certain names in the email address.
Fair. No worries, because given the high amount in the past 2 or 3 weeks, yes, that makes sense for maybe not creating an issue each time. Or yeah, I don't think. I think your technique is good. We should have a standard email set to the account we block, so we can search them, and we write this on the runbook once for all, so you don't have so much issue to maintain.
Yeah, well, and I was using the help desk issues as a way to give us all a sense of how bad or good the problem is. And now I think we see it's bad enough that eventually we want to replace accounts.jenkins.io with something new. And we know that
Absolutely.
already. So adding more of them probably doesn't diminish or increase our desire to replace accounts.jenkins.io.
Absolutely. Let's stop reporting all accounts we block on helpdesk. We know we have quite a few. Helpdesk issue can be used by non-admin to ask for blockers. No, for blocking spam user. So if someone is not admin or doesn't have access to account app, they can raise an issue that can be you on the phone, that can be non-admins, to ask the rest of the team to block the user if need be. Finally, last area of interest, CI Jenkins IO migration to AWS. Jay, you finished the garbage collector. Thanks for that. So now we can build things and have and avoid having dangling resources. Great job. Works very well. And I finished the work on the virtual network, or at least I closed the issue because it's not worth keeping it open. Now, if we have specific network issue, as you will see, we will mention them on the right other subtasks. But the main architecture has been done. We also had an issue closed as non-planned, as usual. We regularly have the issue. People mistaken this helpdesk issue tracker with community forum. Did I miss something on the work you were able to finish here? Nope. Okay. So let's have a look at the work in progress and at the new issue we need to triage. First of all, I'm gonna take the issue right now on the order on which they are on the notes, and then I will reorder the notes after the meeting before publishing. We have a user facing ACP failure when they use a Maven POM-XML dependency range instead of a pinned version in the POM-XML. Tim and I ask why are they using dependency version range, but the person got mad, or at least didn't answer, and said that's something we should support. I don't say yes or no, it's just we don't understand the use case. I would have expected the Jenkins plugins to have fixed dependency so we can rebuild them with confidence. It's not something mandatory on the plugin rules, right, Mark? It's just a recommendation, but not something to enforce.
Sorry, I was focused on this posting. Ask your question again, Damien.
No problem. Is using a version range in dependency for a
Oh,
Jenkins
yeah, I'm
plugin?
sorry. I disagree with the user. I think it is not a common thing to, in fact, that's not just disagree. I don't think we should bother supporting version range. I appreciate
Okay.
that their opinion is, but this is standard Maven. Yes, but if you look at the Jenkins plugin repositories, Jenkins core, you will find this is probably the one and only use of version ranges. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
just not enough for us to justify serious engineering work to try to support version ranges. Sorry, that's just not.
So I propose that this should trigger an add-on on the developer documentation then.
And I
You,
think that makes sense. That saying, hey,
that's a good trigger to say, hey, even if you want to try it, we won't support the builds and the release because
right,
blah blah blah. We want reproducible build, etc.
right. I don't, I appreciate that. Yes, it is a Maven feature, and it is a standard Maven feature. It's just for our experience in the Jenkins project, it tends to be an unhelpful Maven feature. We're much better off when we tie to exact revisions and use Dependabot or Renovate to track those exact revisions.
I agree. So let's add something on the dev documentation to advertise which not to use range. I think it's still a legit request. So outside, let's say between the style of the person is something, but that was legit. What is interesting me though is why is ACP failing on that case?
Right.
That one is a word one, and I'm hesitating because I have a gut feeling that maybe we on the infra part are missing something that could be misconfiguration, or maybe just conclusion it's a word case we don't want to support. But yeah, I don't
And
understand the failure. It shouldn't fail for me, so that's why I would like to understand now.
I think that is a valid, particularly since the author of the post, the person who submitted the question asked, "Hey, this seems like it was a change in mid-October." So I think that makes it even more interesting. Did we
Mm.
actually change something at that point that altered this behavior?
The I challenge that assertion in the sense that I don't see any proof that says something changed in the behavior. We
Ah,
don't just
okay.
have two builds.
I
That's all.
see.
I mean, I would have
Oh, okay.
expected to see multiple builds working with dependency range and then multiple builds not working with dependency range. I only see two builds, one failing and one succeeded. So maybe not, but I don't have enough data to conclude. And if the
Got it.
person doesn't want to answer, at the end, I will close without checking, even if I have a gut feeling, because I mean, I understand the problem and the frustration. We need time to look into this, but if we
Mhm.
don't have things from the end user, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that.
Right. Okay.
So we have an issue that we didn't have time to start on, except I wrote a plan. For the new update center, we need to be safe if Cloudflare has an issue. Any outage on Cloudflare absolutely break the update center. So that's why we now have to work on sending data to archive Jenkins IO when generating update center data, and adding it in mirror bits configuration as a fallback. we can see 404 errors on Cloudflare sometimes. So it looks like our update system, when Cloudflare is currently being scanned by the mirror bits, there are tiny windows of time where user could have 404 errors. So adding archive Jenkins IO here would help, because mirror bits would not answer 404. They will say, okay, I don't know the file, so I send you to the fallback. I don't know, Stefan, if you feel like we should work a button, if you can take it, if I should take it. How do you feel given the CI Jenkins IO load?
It's just mirror bit add
No,
and no. Okay.
no, we need to, as I said, we need to copy data to archive Jenkins IO.
Oh yeah, first thing first.
So I propose I will lead it and you will shadow me for this
Yes,
one. So we
thank you.
share knowledge, okay?
Yes.
So we keep this one on work in progress. It's mandatory. I don't understand why we have twice the same, yeah, the same item. Okay, next item then. We have an issue with external users struggling to submit story to stories Jenkins.io. It looks like stories Jenkins.io uses a CMS system by Netlify. And when using that CMS system to submit data, there is a permission issue. That's all I know. We need to start digging into the topic now that Update Center is done. So we keep that on the milestone and we need to fix this so we can continue having user. As a reminder, Kevin was able to publish the story, thanks Kevin, by using their own permissions. So we have a short-term solution. So that's important, but not top priority because we have a solution. I haven't heard back about from Kosuke about the missing data. And Andrew Bayer is currently preparing to move to New York. So he doesn't have a lot of time for sharing knowledge about the stats. So I believe for both knowledge sharing, we will need to delay that to 2025. I still need to ping Kosuke again because he was traveling on the past weeks. So he could check. Right now, the main issue is on Kosuke. His OpenVPN sometimes crash or doesn't reconnect, or I don't know, and it's a headless machine. Mark, that's a topic that will need to be, yeah, maybe to be handled next year because, yeah, more and more Kosuke is a spot on this one.
Right.
And as much as we are grateful from his help, as much as we will need to start thinking about that process, maybe running it on somewhere only a few person have access and we renew access, or maybe we need to rethink that step.
I agree with you. I see that we don't have any data for November, and we're now in the month of December. So I assume that Andrew Bayer is either delayed in his running the tooling.
The thing is that Andrew depends on Kosuke. If
Oh,
Kosuke
and
doesn't have the
Kosuke
data
doesn't
for
have the data. We don't have confirmation that Kosuke has the data.
exactly.
I see.
So we
Okay.
are stuck at the beginning of the pipeline. The logs, Andrew confirmed with me, the logs are put on the usage machine. The non-anonymized logs are aggregated here. In fact, Kosuke get them and anonymize them. So in any case, if you have admin access to that machine like Andrew, Stefan, you and I, you have access to the data.
I
That's
see.
why I believe the process is not only on Kosuke. It used to be, Tyler did not had the access to that machine in the past, only Kosuke had, but it was a CloudBees only machine back in time. Now the process has changed. We will need to move that machine somewhere else, out of CloudBees in any case. So I believe we should start thinking about this again, because maybe if it's only a shell script, we will run it on a private, really private machine.
Mm.
So waiting for KK. Maven central artifact being downloaded. No, nothing done. As the oh, I have two big fingers, and sometimes I do weird thing with my fingers on my keyboard. Nothing
Well,
done to do. Low priority. So yes, Mark, I'm not sure we
yeah,
will have
I would call
time.
that one low priority. If we want to drop it from the milestone completely and reconsider it next calendar year, that's also okay. It's a risk, but it doesn't seem to be every artifact. It's a relatively small set of artifacts because I'm still seeing, or it's a subset of artifacts. I've saying that it's a small set, maybe overstating my case, but it is definitely a subset. It is not the full set of artifacts. So it's not that we've stopped downloading anything from Maven Central. Rather, some of the artifacts that we expected to get from Maven Central, we're now getting from repo.jenkinsci.org.
I have that good feeling that it's something related to the filters.
Ah, could be.
That means we will need to be, let's say, more aggressive on the filter, like Basil asked us or recommended 1 year ago. I fear that will be a bit more work than expected for this one. That's why right now, yeah, let's. I believe we will delay it.
Okay.
Add monitoring for CD secret updates. That will be Jay next task. So Jay is working on shared library, knowledge and learning. So as a reminder, the goal is to have a way for us to be alerted when one of the main builds, such as Update Center, repository permission update, or Kubernetes management, one of these builds running on private controller and not sending any notification outside, when these builds are failing, we should be alerted. The technique we want to use is to have at the end of each of these pipeline a call to a pipeline library, whether the pipeline fails or not, that will update the status of the builds on a JSON file that we can have somewhere and with a timestamp. Then that means we can monitor these files that only has the build name, the last time it ran, and the last status. If the status is failed or if the last time of build is bigger than few hours, then that means we don't have an update or the build is failing. And then we have an alert in PagerDuty, so we look at it. Right now, the idea is to have Jay getting started on shared library, if it's okay for you, Jay, and for everyone else. Shared library are one of the, let's say, spine of the whole Jenkins usage we have. So that's a good learning curve on a real life exercise because you will have to build that shared library. Of course, we have intermediate step for you to get started, not pushing you in the in the big bath right now, but that's the idea. It's not something high priority, but it's important and it will be better. So that's a good way for us to have you getting a sight of how it works. Any question on this one?
Sounds good.
Cool. Related to CI Jenkins IO, a few updates. We were able to successfully create an EKS cluster manually by finding a lot of different things. I'm back to a not a failing cluster because for the same reason as I cannot spin up properly VM agent, it looks like our current network setup we are launching virtual machines inside private subnets. They should be able to reach internet, but they don't. So I believe it's a misconfiguration because it was not the intent. In any case, it's failing because for the ephemeral VM agent, they cannot contact Datadog and crash because we send metric on each VM spinned up by CI Jenkins IO. And in the case of EKS cluster, the new nodes cannot contact the cluster because they need to exit the private subnet. I'm not sure in the case of EKS, documentation says it should work. So I believe there is something at the routing table level because we should not require having to exit. We should have an endpoint inside the subnet. That's something I don't understand yet. So I'm gonna work on fixing the internet access. By the way, I found something called automated runbook on AWS I didn't know. And the runbook is a task that you can run as an admin in the AWS console, and it will run a set of diagnoses. So in that case, I have a bunch set of logs that give criterias, failing, warning, or error, on the why my node cannot reach the cluster. And there are a bunch of these things. That's really useful. I didn't know about that, and that's the one that give me clues about the routing things. So working on network blocking, adding nodes. Of course, if there isn't an easy issue, we could just say, okay, let's only use public subnet. As a reminder, in AWS and only in AWS, a private subnet is a subnet that is not expected to receive any incoming traffic and doesn't have any route by default to the internet, while a public subnet does. When you have an architecture like this, your private subnet have a NAT gateway. So when they want to reach internet, you can add a route that say go to the NAT gateway. And then the NAT gateway is in the public subnet, which can reach the internet through the internet gateway. Yes, that's a lot of hops, but that's how it works. Thing is, AWS recommend using private subnet for EKS nodes. So we should fix this one, but we are almost there. Details have been given on pull request and the issues. And on the ephemeral agents, right now I'm able to spin up machines in the right private subnet. They are just failing initializing the agent. If I disable Datadog, it works. So we are almost there. Once these two are done, so as soon as the EKS cluster is okay, Stefan will take over and will do the administration configuration part of the cluster with our automation. And I will continue on the ephemeral VM agent with the Windows steps. So we keep both on, and that is our new top priority right after archives Jenkins IO. So the controller virtual machine to AWS is on hold. That will be the last issue to check because that's the issue that track when we will migrate the data from CI Jenkins IO to this new controller. So I hope we should be able to do it end of month, but yeah, worst case January, but it will be ideal if we can do it in 2024. And the rest are epic issues, which help me to say, hey, I've started to play with GitHub project to replace milestones for this exercise. That will help us to have a bit less issues and the concept of epic or parent issues. That will also solve a problem that the poor Jay solved because I was asking Jay about priorities on the task and his view of the milestone wasn't the same as mine. That's a weird behavior of GitHub, but that happens. It's not the first time. So that means if you're unsure about the task priority and the milestone, ask the others because you cannot rely on GitHub UI. GitHub project do not have that problem, so that will be a next good milestone. Let's say good opportunity for 2025, time for me to learn the thing. Anything else on the work in progress, folks? Okay, just a new set of issues to triage. So we still have 404 errors on really weird case. If you have a web browser and you go on current/updates, that thing used to be and is now a symlink to /updates. /updates is a directory at the root of the update center that contains all the tool installer JSON metadata. If you don't have /current in prefix, this worked very well since the beginning. That's one of the main features of the update center system. So yep, it works. However, /current/update being a symlink to /updates, if you click on any of the files in this, then you are greeted by a HTTP 404 because mirror bits and mirrors do not have the concept of a symlink for this one. It's only the Apache that shows you the directory listing. So we need to update the crawler job to duplicate the data in /current/updates tree. That should fix the problem. That's an edge case. It's not priority, but yeah, edge case, but worth fixing it in crawler publication script. It should not have any impact on update center 2 builds because that build doesn't have access to this data. It just say, oh, I have a symlink and that's all. The crawler runs every 3 hours and it takes 2 to 3 minutes to publish. So if we go to 5-minute publication every 3 hours, that's absolutely acceptable. Next issue we need to add to the new milestone. It's the DNF5 update, as far as I can tell. But I saw you answered it, Mark, right? So maybe there is nothing to be done.
Well, there actually is something you've done, and it's a
Okay.
Kevin Martins and I topic. The instructions on pkg.jenkins.io are woefully incomplete. They give something that's very simple and works on Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 and 9, and used to work on Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, but does not work well on Fedora 41. But the Fedora instructions on or on docs.jenkins, no, on the jenkins.io documentation site work great. So we have good instructions for Fedora, but we don't have a link from pkg.jenkins.io to the good instructions. What we have on pkg.jenkins.io is this very simple subset, and I had started the work to replace those and bumped into surprises and etc. So if you open Red Hat stable or Red Hat, right? So these instructions happen to work well for older Red Hat releases, the stable Red Hat releases. They, however, don't work well for Fedora 41, which is really serious about replacing Yum with DNF. It's now DNF5. Red Hat 8 already uses DNF. Red Hat 9 definitely uses DNF, but Fedora has really gone the next step and said, let's stop supporting this exact command sequence doesn't work. I think it's the RPM import that doesn't work. And they're right to do it. They shouldn't carry RPM baggage forever, right? That's just, there's something wrong about that. Eventually, you've got to be able to stop providing the old thing that you no longer want to do.
Yep. Didn't we discuss that maybe one day we could remove this instruction and instead add a link to Jenkins.io documentation?
Yes, that was exactly what we discussed. But what my thought had been at that time, well, let's make it a redirect. But making it a redirect turned out to be more complicated than I thought. And so it might be that all we do is change this page to be something that includes to use this repository, please follow the instructions on this page for Fedora, for Red Hat, for etc. So we've got work we need to do here.
Okay.
The user's report is correct in that these instructions don't work on, or I suspect the user's right, these don't work on Fedora 41. I checked Fedora 41 myself with the documentation instructions, and they work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's only the GPG check. But that also hides something that I propose we send to the SIG platform. GPG check 1 should work, or we should understand why it's not working.
I think the user is misperceiving there, right? They're saying to turn off a GPG check, but what they failed to do is they failed to register the GPG key because they used a yum command to register the key instead of using the DNF, instead of using the instructions we give in the good directions. So I think they just they followed the instructions that they saw. That's correct to do that, but the instructions they saw are wrong.
Okay, so user should has a solution provided in Jenkins.io. pkg.jenkins.io pages need to
be updated to use that, to update it. Need an update to use that solution somehow. And I think the best way is point the people to the Jenkins install instructions, because really it's already bad enough that we would like to avoid having multiple locations that tell you how to install Jenkins, right? Let's point them to the one definitive.
And the reason why this doesn't look important but will be soon, it's because we will have to move pkg Jenkins.io out of a cloud-based AWS virtual machine to a new system. That is the next big task we have.
Right.
And these pages can only be updated today when we trigger a new Jenkins release that's generated by the package build step. And then the system update pkg.jenkins.io machine, which then has a fastly in front. So we have a lot of layers and we cannot update it with a direct link today. So moving pkg.jenkins.io will point fingers on these processes and might have impact.
And there, as you said, there are a number of things that we really should improve. Right now, the fact that it can only be updated by a running release is a little bit embarrassing, right? It's really, we should be able to
Maybe
update
or
that when we
maybe
need.
not, but yeah, it's not clear for everyone and we don't have a proper run book to help.
Right.
New issue Packer image Windows, so I will have to work on this one now that we have agent starting. So these are on the new milestone. Then the rest of the issues are leftover for CI Jenkins IO that will come after EKS. JDK 21 thing and account tab, all of these are still in triage and we cannot work on them on the upcoming week. I don't see new issues.
There is. I opened my two issues.
Stefan issues. Thanks, Stefan. Okay, so I'm adding them to the notes. And here we are. Okay, Stefan, new minor issues. That's all for me. We might have along the way minor update CLI issues for you, Jay, if you are not bored by the shared library thing, or if you want sometimes to
Oh,
change,
if you are
ask
bored.
us. By default, I don't create them because I want you to focus on the shared library now. However, if you want sometimes to change, please ask us. That's all for me.
So
Do you have other topics? Yep.
I have one
Go ahead.
more topic. Because I missed last week submitting the request. I submitted it during this meeting, and Daniel Beck has replied. His concern with skipping the weekly builds is not that we will actually not get contributions. He used it as an expression to say, hey, let's be sure during that holiday period we don't regress things by having major changes arrive with inadequate review. And so for me, that's he makes a valid point. We certainly don't want that. That's not an answer to the question, should we suspend the builds or not? It's rather just a, so I guess my hunch as I wrote the message, my thought still is, I think we should allow the builds to continue and accept that they will be less well monitored than otherwise. But 24th of December for many locations is a holiday. 31 December for many locations is a holiday. So I'm proposing something that's kind of strange to allow it to run. Others, comments, complaints?
I'm in favor of Daniel view. I remember at least twice our January for the GenSec team because they had to, in last and emergency minute before LTS release or security advisory, they had to check back unexpected merges that happened during the Christmas holidays. And that was a nightmare for them, making them unavailable to help us on the update center, for instance. So this and the fact that we have limited monitoring, I would be inclined on saying, hey, let's say since we moved the LTS 2 weeks, we can do it with weekly. There are no reason it would delay anything or decrease contribution. I think it's also a good message to say, hey, let's slow down on the changes. I think it's an implicit message, and I will be inclined on having a break for the weeklies as well. But again, one opinion,
Yeah,
not a
okay.
decision, of course.
So
I do
so I
agree.
think you and I have different opinions. It's good. That's healthy. Let's
Absolutely.
we'll let the discussion continue then in the mailing list and see where it goes.
Of course, if we have releases, we will monitor them with our own goals. But if I will be the person choosing, I wouldn't do any weekly. Yeah, for these reasons. Thanks, Mark,
I
for
would
triggering the
agree
topic.
with Damien for once. Sorry, Mark.
That yearly review will be hard for us.
Yes.
No, but it's fine to have that discussion because whether or not we agree, that's important to understand both concerns. So thanks, Mark, for triggering that topic and sharing Daniel's point. That's all for me. Anything else, folks? No, thanks. So let's get back to work and have a nice day, everyone. So for people watching us, see you next week. I'm stopping screen sharing and recording. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.